welcome to Tradier's Rundown. I'm Jim Uriel. That's Bob Icino. We are also the co-hosts of Tradier's The Trader's Edge, which airs live at 3 o'clock Chicago time on Wednesday afternoons. Bobby, how are you?
Good. That's also 4 o'clock Eastern time for people who know there's other times in the world. But I am from Chicago, so
there's other times in the world. That's weird. By the way, I just grabbed a shirt because what I had on was too hot in my room because the sun's coming in, and it's like 3 sizes too small, so I feel like I'm you now, like putting on a shirt.
Yeah, that's exactly how a man is supposed to wear a shirt.
Okay, good.
Within our culture, anyway.
For my restaurant, Branson Palatine, Eat Up, Drink Down. But anyway, nice to see you. Let's talk stocks. The stock market continues what a lot of people thought would be an improbable rally, considering that rates are high. If you had to pick a handful of reasons that the stocks continue to rally, what is it?
Well, number one, I would say earnings were a lot more surprising. Number two, we still got this chip driver. You know, today specifically, CrowdStrike was one of the biggest movers in the NASDAQ, which is obviously not a chip stock, but right behind them, you had ASML, which makes lithography equipment for the chip industry. You had Qualcomm, you had NVIDIA, you had AMD. So that kept driving the NASDAQ higher. And I think as long as the middle to long end of the curve is going lower, the NASDAQ will lead and the rest will follow.
So I still look at the fact that I believe there's a ton of liquidity into the system. M2 money supply has gone up, not down, over the last year.
Yeah.
And the Treasury keeps sucking up every bit of money that's in that reverse repo and then spitting it back into the economy. Do you think there is a liquidity issue that belongs in this discussion as well, like excess liquidity in the system?
Excess, yes. When you say a liquidity issue, I right away think of a crisis.
That's why I changed it, right?
Yeah. No, I think the liquidity is there for the short term. You and I both agree that longer term, this is going to end up being a problem. But we're talking about a rally that probably has a quarter to a quarter and a half minimum left in it, simply because of the way the earnings are performing. And again, even like today, we had the first day of testimony with Jerome Powell. There was no hawkishness there, man. There wasn't. He talked about it being potentially appropriate for 2 rate cuts by summer. 2 is less than the market was expecting. What do we get? A rally.
Yeah, how about it? And the fact that New York Community Bank is having difficulty, the fact that I actually think that things like Bitcoin, things like gold are reflecting somewhat of a no confidence vote. And the no confidence vote is in the stewardship of our currency, is in the underlying fundamentals of the economy. The Fed is supposed to dump their bank term lending program this month. If they do that and fissures start to show up in the regional banking system, do we have that 10% crack that I've been looking for?
Maybe. I think it's pretty key. So late breaking news. I don't know if you've even seen it. New York Community Bank raised $1 billion in a fundraising round led by former Treasury Secretary Mnuchin, who has a reputation. I mean, he is not a dumb guy. So that $1 billion hole has been filled. Now, some people say the hole is bigger than that, but the lending rights were supposedly worth about $1 billion. So there's life there. Yeah, I think it's going to be tough to get that 10% crack if the bank itself doesn't crack.
Okay, so you and I, the last thing here, the AI FOMO, you hit on that at the beginning part of it. And essentially there was the Magnificent Seven, and then it was kind of 8. Well, a couple of them have rolled over. Google's AI was an absolute unmitigated disaster. Apple's presence in China being called into question after a round of headlines a couple of days ago. So 2 have gone. What are you looking for? If one more goes, if Amazon flops, if Microsoft flops, will that be enough then, the critical mass, to drag the whole thing down?
I think that'll drag the whole thing sideways. And the reason I say that is, remember FANG? Nobody talks about FANG anymore. That's not like the hot sort of faux ETF that everybody should be trading. So the market just gloms on to the next thing when you're in this buy everything mode. And again, if we're talking about the Fed being the driver, which you and I both think they are, at least in the short term, right? They're going to be there if things crack, and they've already set the market up to expect it.
Okay, I like it. So you know what I did today, because we had a big update today when the S&P was up 40 points. I bought options, and what I've been doing is to sell one, either SPY or whether it be the futures, and then buy 2 or 3 below it, spend money, have a high delta, make it 2 or 3 months out, and then plan on rolling it in about a month to something else. You always liked that in the past. You like it now?
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, options are set up in such a way that if you're not playing options, it's time you start learning about them. from a vol
And if you guys
perspective.
want to learn options, I will give you Bob Iacino's personal phone number, and you can just call him anytime you want.
Who's to say you have that number?
I don't. No, I do. Thank you guys for joining us. This has been Tradier's Rundown. Please join us for Tradier's The Trader's Edge, 3 o'clock Chicago time. I don't know any other time zones because Chicago's all that matters.
All opinions expressed by Tradier Hub contributors are solely the contributors' opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Tradier nor its affiliates and or subsidiaries. You should not treat any opinion expressed by Hub contributors as a specific inducement to make a particular investment or to follow a particular strategy, but only as an expression of their opinion. The contributors' opinions are based on their own personal research, but neither Tradier nor its affiliates and or subsidiaries warrants its completeness or accuracy, and it should not be relied upon as such. Any trades or positions discussed or referred to by contributors may or may not be actual live trades or positions. Such information is not intended to be financial or investment advice. Tradier Inc. is the parent company of Tradier Brokerage Inc. Tradier Brokerage Inc. and Tradier Inc. are separate entities with their own products and services. Securities products and services are offered through Tradier Brokerage Inc. Tradier Brokerage Inc. is an independent subsidiary of Tradier Inc.,